Los and Tech Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm once again joined by my incredibly beautiful co-hosts, Nick and Randy. How are you guys doing?
Obviously, you're speaking about Randy here because he is the beautiful one out of the two of us.
It's the glowingness. It's the over exposed what's happening with FaceTime that's making me look very angelic.
We all rearranged our offices this week. How did that happen?
We didn't even discuss doing it all at the same time.
No,
we all just
you guys were copying me because I told, look, exclusive look for the podcast, exclusive everything. This is what I've been working on since I stopped uploading because I am buying. Oh, which I guess this is completely untech related, but life related. So I'll just fill everyone in. I ordered a lot of stuff on Amazon, and I'm waiting to get here. But given our, since we're on YouTube, I guess I can't say. But given our situation,
just desanitize, sanitize everything.
Well, it's just things are delayed up until like end of April, May, maybe June. So,
oh my god,
I don't think I'm gonna wait that long, to be honest with you guys. I think I'm just gonna kind of start winging it because I'm getting the itch. So
that's the Taylor's way.
Now, welcome to
that is the
new studio setup.
It's good enough.
Winging it version.
Welcome to good enough. I also wanted to respond to a few comments and reviews we got because I noticed some people often have complained about us talking over each other, and I want to clarify everyone that that's not intentional. We're not intentionally trying to talk.
Yes, it is super intentional. I'm definitely talking over to you right now on purpose.
The point is, we're over FaceTime, and there are time zones between some of us, and that makes it incredibly difficult to time when someone has stopped talking and when someone else has started talking. So there's long gaps sometimes, and then there's overlap, and there's really nothing we can do about it to prevent. It's just kind of
aside from
part of the system.
Flying halfway across the planet to have a live video podcast, which we've done a total of one time,
which went very organic and smooth. And
that's true.
Well, we did it for tech, and we did it for the talks, and we did it.
Yes.
We did too. Yeah, you're right.
Because Nick is halfway across the world.
Yeah. Halfway across the world. I'm literally on the opposite side.
He lives in
of the
Africa. Yeah, for those who didn't know. He's way
That's
over
why
there.
the internet is so sad here.
It's 8:50 in the morning for me and Drew, and Nick should be going to bed right now.
Oh,
Yep,
you know what reminds me? We didn't talk about this last week, but I felt like we should have. But I wanted to congratulate Randy for positioning himself in a way that he could not be wrong with how I handled the 2020 iPad Pro, because it is gone. But you, on one end of the spectrum, said you should keep it, and then afterwards said, but you're going to return it. I know you are. So it was like, you couldn't lose. There was no way.
No, I ended it with I knew. I was trying to make a counter argument for myself, but I knew you were going to return it. And it's so funny that I was trying to take the humble approach, but since you brought it up, man, it feels good to be right. I know you.
And I want to say how frustrating it was to come to a decision on that because of your position. Because I legitimately was like, I really like this iPad. It's kind of expensive. I should probably return it. But then Randy would be right. So I should keep it.
Is that the only reason why you returned it? I see.
But then he also suggested me to keep it. So he was really in my head. He was really throwing me around.
No, I fully believe that you were going to return it because of the arguments I made for you returning it. Even made more sense for me. Like, oh man, if I was Drew, I no sense keeping it just because of your new philosophy. I said I remember at one point a couple weeks ago I said that you would keep it if this was old Drew, just because Lates and Grays and gives you something to do. And I can see an argument being made for it of holding on to it. However, your lifestyle now, who you are today, it doesn't fit your ethos. It doesn't fit who you are, and doesn't really make sense because it wasn't that drastic of an update. If it was something where we got like brand new design and there was a better processor, we had more that went with it.
I will clarify, it was definitely not the processor. I think people are super over-exaggerating the CPU upgrade in the fall. It's not like I personally think A14X will be smaller than people think. They don't like knowing that the A12Z chip is not that different from the 2018 chip. It doesn't matter that it's still unbeaten. No one cares. It's like nothing is maxing out the A12Z. No one's like, dang it, I wish I could do this, but the CPU and GPU is just too slow. It's just it's like it's people waiting for a unicorn to show up. You know, people are just like, oh, it'll the next one will be even better. The next one, well, it's like, well, the next one will always be better, but that doesn't mean you have to not buy this one because nothing I do on the iPad needs an A12Z. Like, it's honestly, I could probably get by with an A12 for my purposes.
Do you think that this actually shows us what would happen when there's no more competition on the table with tablets and iPad, and now we're having longer turnarounds, and now these incremental updates? Do you feel like this is now like, well, like, because what you just said, nothing still beats the 812 in the 2018 at all, that even this one, even if it's a very slightly updated one, it's still unmatched? Is this what we feel is now the norm when it comes to tablets? Because please, you're not going to do anything. Look at us. We are iPad, you know?
I think it's the new norm. It's going to be for a while, because if people think that design changes are the only major upgrades, you're going to get really, really bored in the future of tech upgrades, because even if the iPad gets mini LED, it's not going to look that different. It's going to be iPad Pro XDR, which you'll notice when watching very specific content that supports XDR. And for the day-to-day stuff, I'm sure it's going to look basically the same. But this is the new normal type of upgrade, is my point. I don't think this was a little mid-step upgrade before a real big one in the fall.
Yeah.
I think this is what upgrades are going to be like in the future. But I'm sad none of us have the newest one. Go ahead, Nick.
The iPad's just so mature, though. Like, it's not like there's really much to fix. Like, I love my 2018 iPad Pro. I use it literally every day for hours a day. Maybe this is a good time to mention it. I did end up buying a new one. That hasn't come yet. I know.
Congratulations! Wait, give me the specs.
Shocked.
I want numbers.
Okay, so
maxed out everything. You went back to old Nick.
No, I hope not. Because I thought long and hard about this purchase, and I legitimately have a need for it. Right now, I want to create video content for the podcast. For all of you on the audio podcast on iTunes, guess what? We have a YouTube video podcast. If you're watching,
we haven't
on
talked
YouTube,
about it before. I know.
Enjoy the fingers. I know. But right now, our current setup is this very blurry 380p FaceTime recording. And the reason why that's happening is because of my iPad's storage. 380p. I don't know what it is. It's pretty bad.
How dare you? That's an insult. At least a 720.
Okay, 720. Whatever the internet is doing. But the reason why it is this way is because my iPad doesn't have enough storage to handle a free and available storage to handle 3 separate hour-and-a-half long video tracks. And keep in mind, we do 2 podcasts, so that's 6 hours of video right there. Yes, we were planning on recording it in 720 at 30, and so that we're trying to save space where we can. But each one of those files still ends up being like 3 gigs. So overall, my current iPad, 64 gigabytes, 3rd gen iPad that I love to death. I love it. It doesn't have enough storage for me to do the kind of content that I want to create for you guys.
But storage couldn't be the only reason, right?
Storage is the biggest reason. The reason why I'm upgrading now instead of waiting, because I originally wanted to wait for sure until May, and if not, maybe until the fall, because my iPad is so good. Like, I have 0 processing or speed complaints about it. It's always as fast as I need it to be.
It's just storage.
It's just the storage. And yeah, if we're honest, maybe that extra core will help out a little bit in LumaFusion export times, but at the end of the day, that's not the reason.
Main reason being you need the camera cutout to match the keyboard case. That's the main thing.
Not really, no. I'm not even sure.
If you're back there enough to notice the cutout, you're using your iPad wrong.
Yeah, well. So yeah, that's the accessories is a whole nother conversation. But anyway, so I decided I really needed a new iPad because I need more storage. The quicker I can make that happen, the quicker we can up the quality of the podcast. So I'm kind of incentivized to make this happen sooner than later. And I've been watching the Apple Store, and the ship times on the terabyte model have been going out to infinity
He's
very
giving-
rapidly.
You were considering terabyte?
I got a terabyte.
Oh,
Whoa.
you did? Oh my
Yeah.
God! You were joking.
Okay, so this is a device I'm planning on keeping for 3 or 4 years.
Oh my
I
God!
do not. The current iPad that I have, the 3rd gen, I would be fine using it for another 3 or 4 years if it had a terabyte. So
why not go refurbished?
So I was looking on Apple's refurbished site, and their terabyte LTE models have not been in stock for a long time. And I found a website that tracks Apple's refurbished products and when they've been in stock.
Oh,
and it
that's
hasn't
cool.
been in stock for like 2 months.
What's it called? What's that site called?
It's Apple I don't know. I found it on Google.
Because Drew loves dropping that refurbish info.
Oh yeah.
I
Whenever
love it. It's amazing.
When we start comparing, Drew goes, "Yeah, but what about refurbish?"
I
To
have
the
a lot of
point where
tricks.
like you actually have me on the site looking now.
I have a few tricks that I won't share publicly, but there's a couple things I've found in the past that could save you money on a Mac, just from buying so many in the past. But
well,
I will
appreciate
tell
not
you
sharing
that-
with me. So yeah, so basically it was me needing an iPad sooner than later that pushed me towards the new one instead of refurbished, because at this point I have like 500 and something megabytes of free storage on my iPad right now. So
you maxed out the new iPad?
No. The new iPad terabyte, I hope I never max it out. That's the
No,
goal.
I mean you maxed out the
one that
the
you have.
specs. You got a cellular.
Oh, yeah.
1
with
terabyte,
configuration. Yep,
12.9 inch.
Yeah.
Holy cow! And you're getting a keyboard
See,
case, right?
called it. He went back to
I know.
Ultimate.
Randy is so smart.
God, it feels good
Randy,
to be right.
You win all the Called It prizes this episode.
Randy
I
is
will
Coin
give you
X.
the award.
Confirmed.
I'm Coin X. Wait, he said something that was like cool. Oh, I can't respond in emojis though because I know he's like Mac soon.
Yeah.
Coin X. Or I gotta make some ambiguous comment now that leads people thinking like when I said Drew's like, no, you're gonna return it though. Nick, you're gonna max it out. Okay, now I'm gonna make a speculation on my behalf. I will be buying the new keyboard when it comes out. not much of a leak.
So
yeah.
Oh, speaking of the keyboard though, how is it?
Which one?
Me?
Your keyboard, your accessory.
It's terrible. I returned
Oh
it
my God.
immediately
Really?
because of how bad it was. So I see you guys don't watch the Twitch streams, but
No.
I did a
I
Why
have
you gotta
to
call me
upload
out
them
like that?
to
Why
the
you gotta call me
podcast.
out like that? Oh my God.
Randy on the podcast, his job is to predict what's going to happen accurately. My job is to be like, so if you guys heard of Tailosive Tech, he makes some videos on YouTube you could watch. But that $80 keyboard case was utter garbage. The trackpad did not work in the middle. It did not work on the top. It only worked on like the far left and right sides, and they sounded horrible, and they weren't consistent, and the cursor would lag. The keyboard part of it was fine, but they were so embarrassed by it they did not want to put their logo anywhere on the product. So it was I could have had a defective unit, to be fair, because it had 4.5 stars, so I thought it would be a lot better than it was. So maybe something was wrong with my unit, but I was like, okay, this is what happens when I try to leave the first party accessories market, because I was like, hey, this is only $80, that's pretty affordable, but then I get it and it's like, oh God, this is so terrible. This is so bad. And the fact that, you had to charge it and pair it and everything just made it horrible. I know I've heard of like things like the Bridge Pro that third parties are working on, but you pre-order it and it's $230. It's like, what's even the advantage with going with that? Because you're not getting the smart connector. It may work better, but
You have to pair it over Bluetooth, and that's honestly half the problem. And you have to charge it. Like I totally looked at those
Never
bridge
mind.
cases like 2 or 3 years ago before I got this iPad.
Yeah.
I was pretty close to pulling the trigger on a bridge keyboard because it had a backlit keyboard. They didn't have trackpads at that point, but it was really that Bluetooth pairing and that separate charging that was just like, I don't want to deal with that in my life. I don't have to remember to charge my keyboard and pair it every time I want to use.
Mm-hmm. It's an unfair advantage, though, because Apple does not let third parties use the new
They
smart
totally
connector.
do. Yes, they do.
Not
They
the
totally
new
do. Yeah, the new one.
Just the old one.
Just the old one? The old smart connector?
The old smart
the
connector.
third gen iPad Pro's smart connector is available. The specs are out there to use it.
Why is no one using it?
because Apple's licensing is so complicated. I looked into this like about the same time I was looking at the Bridge keyboard. I was like, I had this perfect keyboard in mind that had basically exactly what the new Magic keyboard is.
Yes.
Has a USB-C port, uses the smart connector, has a backlit keyboard. Mine had a battery in it that would charge the iPad too. But anyway, so I did all this research on the smart connector, and like all the specs are out there. Like it's like a 5-watt positive and negative lead, and then a data in out lead.
But getting it on your own product is the complicated part. Yeah,
so you can make it work, but getting it licensed to work on the box, say works with iPad smart connector, that's the Apple lets people do it. Like there was that Logitech charger from a million years ago that.
But that was the old connector. iPad. Is my point. I read reports that the new one is a lot harder. I didn't hear the same thing. You've done a lot of research on this, but I have noticed there being
because I did that research in 2018.
Okay, so. Because I've seen a lot of people claim now that like there's a reason there's not a third-party market for the more up-to-date smart connectors. But I mean, some people get angry about that when Apple, because some people are angry at Apple. If you didn't know, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are like that gives them, especially when it's like the Genius Bar stuff, where it's like only Apple is able to repair certain things and stuff like that. Where I guess it turns into a moral debate at that point. But my perspective on it is like it gives them an unfair advantage on third parties. But I don't know if they should be legally required to have a fair advantage against third parties. Like,
wait, run that by me one more time.
Do you think Apple should be like required to provide? This is a big subject. We're gonna get in trouble.
Do it, Drew. Do it.
This is a big conversation. But should Apple be legally required to provide third parties with like parts and tools to fix their stuff? Or if Apple wants to keep that exclusive to themselves and make sure that third parties can't have access to that, should they be allowed to make that call?
Legality? No, they don't. They shouldn't be required. They hold the patents on all these things. It's their
creation. Yeah,
it's all theirs. They should not. Should they play nice? That's more of a social requirement at that point. If it's
is it ethical,
acceptable or not? I don't care. Like it doesn't matter if it's ethical because I don't think ethics have anything to do. I think it's irrelevant. I think should they legally be required? No. Should they ethically do it? Subjective. It does it.
If you're in that industry, you'd probably say yes.
No. If I was in that industry, that would tell me. So here's how I look at competition. Mm-hmm. I look at it in the sense that I like Apple's business format of everything in-house, and it's from top to bottom, all controlled as much as possible, not laterally where everything could be outsourced and brought in. The reason why I was ever drawn towards Apple in the beginning was that they have control of the final product in every capacity of it. And I feel like it gives you a better end result for a better product. Does it limit you on things? Yes. But do you want to have a lot of cool things, or do you want a few really, really well working things? And that's the real, maybe my thing of its overall statement is that I care about certain things working really, really, really well than having a lot of cool things and it being mediocre. So apply that to your question. If you keep it in-house and you can control the quality to the point where if you're fixing your own things and then you can, we can resell these on a refurbished site and it's basically brand new at a smaller cost. I would rather do that than give it to somebody where it could possibly compromise it. Even if you have certain requirements you need to meet for it to be Apple certified or whatever. Like, yeah, we endorse this third party company. You don't have control at the end of the day. So I can't really vouch for something when I take my car in. If I took my Tesla outside of a Tesla network to get it worked on, I would have diarrhea. I would freak out. Like I would not be comfortable with it, and that's just what it is. So I would say that, are they ethically required? It's subjective, because some people want to be like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm willing to take that risk. Okay, cool. For me, I always go to an Apple store for literally everything. I won't go somewhere else. So ethically, I don't know, and legally, I don't think they should be required unless what they're doing, the practice of something, is infringing on somebody else's business structure, in the sense that it's like, well, we don't compete with iPhone camera modules. However, we do have the tools to so and so do this, and by them saying that they have the certain screw that opens it up or whatever, and now we can't operate our business outside of Apple because of this type of patent, then I'd be like, okay, well, maybe that can be up for debate. But overall, working and servicing and the 3-pin connector and everything else is like, hey, work on this thing and you can make it yours and whatever. I mean, unless you can bring something to the table to make Apple go, yeah, that might work, I don't feel like there should be law involved where it's like, no, you need to do this. It's more like, your product sucks. Let Apple decide what might work and not work. And I know it's a flawed philosophy, because you can poke holes in it, but
yeah, and I'm about to.
Please, Nick. Yeah, because I choose holes. I choose that side over, playing nice.
Okay.
So you can have your cake and eat it too. I think, Randy, you want, just as I want, a few really good focused products from Apple that work really, really well. Think Smart Keyboard. Think Magic Keyboard. Think the amazing Magic Trackpad 2, which has yet to fail me. It's an amazing product, especially because it's space gray and came with an iMac Pro, and it was very exclusive.
Oh my God!
Apple changed it and sold.
You haven't
it
changed
to the
his
world.
mind.
But there's also another side of it that I enjoy. Having a variety of third-party accessories that all work together, that aren't necessarily designed by Apple or approved by Apple, but work well enough. I know, Randy, you're giving me the face.
But finish your point.
But I think of, okay, here's something I was just looking at today. This is, since I don't have a Tesla, this was a little adapter that I used to use for my car. That is MFI, made for iPhone. It is a car 12-watt charger, so you plug it into like the cigarette lighter, and has 2 USB ports that connect to the iPhone via the MFI Bluetooth or iPod thing, like back in the day when you used to plug your iPod into the car. That same format. And then it has a line out that goes directly into my studio system, or my stereo system in the car. Now, the little accessory itself was kind of junky. I understand that. It was not high quality or well built, and it actually pooped out, which is why it's in my office, not in my car. But I enjoyed having the option to be able to try that out. It worked great for a couple months, and it was fun to have around, so I didn't have to pair it with Bluetooth. I just plugged my phone in, charged it, and got the music out. It was wonderful. But I also understand that frustration of it not being a quality product and something that Apple has, like, put their stamp on. Like, this is a good product that is going to work. Like, all the Belkin stuff, anything they sell in an Apple store is like Apple quality junk that's not Apple branded. So, yeah, I would say they should not be required by law. I totally would agree with, I think, everyone on that. It shouldn't be some legal requirement that companies should do that. But
a lot of people don't agree with those opinions.
Oh,
I'm not one of them, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
There's a lot.
I'm not saying it's me. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm in agreement with Randy, because Randy has made his statement about the legality of it. I don't believe it should be a legal requirement, but I think it should be encouraged by the consumers to have more choice. Whether or not I actively use that choice is my decision, but I appreciate having the options.
I think I agree in the most part by saying if a company decides that they want everything to be worked on internally, serviced or repaired, and they don't want other third parties being able to access parts or tools that can service their equipment. Like, they invented the MacBook, they invented the iPad, they invented the iPhone. If they choose to service it that way, they are responsible for the pros/cons, because not every Apple repair story is a good one. So if that damages the brand and that damages what the product is known for, of being like, hey, I can only service it here and they did a bad job, okay, don't buy from them. That should be the takeaway, in my opinion. The takeaway should not be, okay, well, we should go to court and legally require them to allow parts. And I know there's people whose jobs
are we talking
require
about
on
third-party accessories or repairs?
Both. We're talking about Apple locking out third parties from accessing certain things, whether it be smart connector, whether it be tools, whether it be service, whether it like parts, any number of things. And my point is, if a company chooses to do that and it results in people still buying the product and enjoying it, even if the service is exclusive to them, then that's their business model. That's their choice. If another company is able to make a better product and let it be serviced by third parties and give out the parts to everybody and let their ports become open source to third parties and make it really easy for everyone, like, if they can outperform them, then let the free market, let the businesses themselves outperform each other to prove which mindset is more effective, which results in a happier consumer. At this point, I feel like we can't make the argument that Apple's business strategy has damaged their success. There have been, I'm sure you can find people with terrible stories from the Genius Bar or terrible stories from Apple Certified Repair, and they're not doing their job, but that's because you don't really hear about the good stories, I think, mostly. And if there's enough consistency and if there's enough good stories that people will keep coming back, and enough happiness with the way the product performs for what people need it for, they will keep going back to that brand. If it's bad enough, they won't go back to the brand and the business will suffer from it. So I don't think the government, personally, a lot of people could disagree, but I don't think the government needs to step in and say, no, you're required to treat your customers or your third parties this way, and say, you need to provide tools for them because, they need jobs and they need customers and they need to be able to service your products that people choose to bring to third parties and not to you. I would say if they want to do that, let them, but if they don't want to, there shouldn't be a legal force to step in. But
so I should probably clarify my statements there. I was talking specifically about the third-party accessory market. I love the MFI program, all of that. I'm not super a huge fan of the third-party repair shops out there. I know probably some of you guys work there. Some of the fans work at a third-party Apple retailer, but I've had a few bad experiences at some that. It's just like they're the two that I went to, Dino Computers in Pasadena, so free shout out to them. The guys there were very Windows oriented, and it like kind of felt like they didn't really understand like how a Mac is different and what makes a Mac, special.
What's a Mac?
And so exactly, so they're all talking about like, oh, we need to upgrade the the RAM on this or whatever, and I was just like, no, I had an old computer we were trying to get up and running to get some files off.
What version of Windows is this Mac running?
Exactly.
Ironic now that Nick is using Windows on his Mac.
Ouch! Ouch!
God, Nick. You're
the MacBook Pro runs Windows better than any Windows computer ever could, because I can still boot out of Windows whenever I need to.
You can still do that on a Windows, but whatever.
Yeah,
that's besides the point.
Linux.
Boot into something else. But yeah, I think we'll probably get a lot of backlash for this episode.
Yep.
That's
so
okay.
Well deserved.
Send it all at me personally on Twitter at Nick Answini. Just all of the hate directed at me. Don't direct it at
you heard it here first.
Might make an interesting debate later. Might make a good debate we could have later with someone. We'll see.
I'll take it a step further and be like, if Apple can make their own, like I was just looking at the bottom of my phone and I see the little star screws. If they made their own screw that needs like it's an off-center like 3-prong, like I'm all for it. Like if you can lock more people out of this, lock them out of it. I feel
Why?
because I quality control. My whole approach to it is just quality control, and I know there's flaws in it, but that's,
we're just not part of that market that repairs our own stuff or takes it to third parties.
Don't tell Rossman that. He'll
No. If you couldn't tell, we're not part of that community. But I think it's safe to say Nick has had a lot of good experiences at Apple stores with replacement devices and.
Yeah. No, I'd never consider ever taking any of my Apple devices anywhere else. Like,
to the point that we had to wait 6 hours
for what?
At an Apple store, Nick.
What? Never. When did we do that, Randy?
6 hours.
What was 6 hours
for? Because he wanted to get something done at Apple and he had an appointment, and instead of going some routes, we were hanging at the mall for 6 hours. Fair,
this mall is basically a small city, and
this
we had
true.
An ice hockey rink to go to, and a movie theater, and
it was so big that the buildings. You would have thought you were walking around in downtown, and that it was an outdoor mall that gave you the illusion that it's like you're like on the New York Strip or Vegas Strip, and it's all these things, when really it was just intricately designed to be a mall that doesn't have. It's a modern mall. It just has stacked floors that make it look like people live there or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's all aesthetic. It's just another mall that the city of La Jolla,
the nicest mall I've ever been.
Millions. It is amazing. It is the first like really modern like revamped Apple store that they cleaned up for the county of San Diego, and it's one of those like super Apple stores, which that's the only one in the San Diego County. It's not the most popular one, but it's the only super store one, and it is designed to make it feel like you're driving into a new city, and you can walk around and you get to.
Didn't you say they have their own zip code?
They basically have their own zip code. Yeah, it's so
and people
big.
live at that mall. And why are we talking about this mall? And this is not TikTok at all. But.
Well, because I'm painting the picture that Nick and I had a beautiful date one day.
It sounds gorgeous.
But we waited 6 hours because Nick did not want to go anywhere but to an Apple store. So I guess this is me vouching for Nick, but more me also complaining that we waited 6 hours, even though I really got to know them all that day.
There must be,
to this day.
Yeah, like I think there must be like I know there's a emotional side of Apple's marketing that they cater to, especially when it comes to the stores, because you notice people like.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. You're not the only one though. It's not just the tech community. I think it's actually super present outside of the tech community, outside of people that listen to this podcast or watch YouTube videos. Like people go to Apple stores to like hang out or play with stuff. You don't do that at a Windows store. I mean, you don't go to Verizon to hang out and play with phones they have out on display. You don't get that same experience. And I think that there's a certain amount of consistency. It's hard to measure, because I know when someone has a terrible Genius Bar experience and they're like, oh, this guy was an idiot and he didn't know how to repair this thing. I'm sure that happens because Apple employs tens of thousands of people, and you're never going to get tens of thousands of people and not have some idiots or not have some people who are wrong. But I mean, even if there's some corporate level policies that are corrupt, it's like there is no perfect system. But if they're able to find a way to make a place that people are willing to just come to and hang out, and they have that trust, there's enough good stories, there's enough good experiences that people know, okay, I'm just going to come back. Yeah, could be more expensive than third party, but I feel much more safe and much more like I feel trustworthy going into this larger establishment that's really pretty and has, Apple certified everything, and it's built by Apple, so you know who you're going to and you know what to expect. And it may not be the best deal, it may not be the best, it may not even be the best repair, but if it's the peace of mind people have knowing they're taking it to a safety. Legit.
I really like that word, Drew. Every time I do walk into an Apple store with a messed up device that isn't quite working, like an Apple store is like haven of safety. I basically live without good internet, so back in the day I had to do software updates and stuff at the Apple Store because my internet was so poor. But like I would legit if I had an afternoon and nothing to do and I was in the area, I'd swing by the Apple Store and people watch for a few hours. I just it was a very safe and fun place that like I go there not just for repairs, and I love the Apple Store. You're right, it is an emotional safety thing. At the end of the day, my repair might not be as good as what some high quality third party repair person might be able to provide, but it's that safety knowing that Apple's going to do whatever they have to do to make it right. I had a great example. I had a friend's cracked display, and we went to the Apple Store to get it fixed, and when it came back out, Face ID wasn't working. So the display was fixed, but Face ID wasn't registering his face. And so Apple replaced the entire device. They went in for like the $190 out of Apple Care screen replacement. Apple ended up replacing the entire device, and they just gave them, one of the refurb or whatever full device swaps. And like it's that kind of level of safety that I go to the Apple Store first. If I go to Dino Computer in Pasadena and they screw up Face ID in the process of fixing my phone screen, then I'm not 100% sure, and Dino might have a policy where they give me a new one, but I don't know that for sure. I know for
and that
sure,
wouldn't make the news either.
Exactly.
if a third-party store was replacing your stuff and they screwed up and they gave you a crappy product, no one's going to go on the news about that. But if the first party from Apple screws up your repair, yes, obviously that's going to make top headlines. They're like, oh, these idiots didn't know how to do this, or these idiots. But I feel like for every upcharge story or for every story of someone getting overpriced repair, there's also a story, or there's probably 2 to 3 stories of
10 stories.
10 stories for each one of those bad ones that gets unnoticed, where it's like Nick, where he goes in and says, hey, my iPad isn't straight anymore, and they're like, here, have a new one. There's all kinds of that stuff. Like I'm not saying they're perfect. I hope people get that point across. My argument is
Drew, Apple is perfect. Never has ever made a mistake. AirPower never ever will ever make a mistake. Apple is perfect.
A friend of mine a long time ago spilt a drink on my iMac Pro keyboard, and it made the key. It was not me. It made the keys really, really sticky, and I was like, "Oh, this is really frustrating because this is like my go-to keyboard." So my go-to response was like, "Okay, we go to Apple stores all the time. Next time we go to an Apple store, I'll see if we can get it swapped out." We went there. We had an appointment and everything, and I was like, "Hey, this keyboard's sticky. Can we get it replaced? We haven't owned it for a year yet." So I was just like, can we replace this? And they said, sure, yeah, that won't cost you anything. We'll order the replacement part, and it'll be here within a week. And I was like, there's a Magic Keyboard in space gray on the wall right there. I'm looking, can I just get one of those? And they're like, no, that's for retail. I'm like,
yep.
What difference does it make? I'm just getting a keyboard and just getting it swapped out. It doesn't cost anything. They're like, sorry, it's like when it's a replacement that's from a different source and we have to wait for that to show up. You can't just grab one off the shelves.
All those replacement units are refurbished.
Yeah. Either way, though, I was like, that's stupid. That's annoying because you're giving me the same thing, but I have to drive down here because it's not close to me, but I have to come drive down here in a week, and I don't want to do that again. But that's what I had to do, and it was annoying.
It to you if you wanted to.
I don't recall them allowing that. It was something like if it came to the store, it was a lot faster. Okay, Nick, I'm sorry. You know my memory better than I do. I apologize.
I just know protocols better than you do. Look at that.
But the Magic Keyboard thing was like, it was frustrating. It's annoying, but it's not going to make me go to some third-party shop to repair the keys either. I'm not going to be like, well, this sucks. I'm just going to go take it to some other repair. So it's like, if it was bad enough that it was damaging the brand, they would see a suffer in sales from it. And the fact that they've grown so big and they've, the revenues have done so well, and I don't think it's just from upcharging people with broken stuff. If you look at the revenue streams, that's not a big part of it. It's not like, oh yeah, all the profit from repairing our devices, that's like half our income or whatever. It's like, it's more of an emotional thing, just knowing people have a place to go where they can count on something being done right, and it may not be a 100% perfect track record, but customer satisfaction is pretty high, and they bring that up. And that's why they have such, a lot of people compare it to something like Gucci or Supreme or, just a brand loyalty, like a really, really blind one. I should know, I'm an Apple sheep. But my point about there being a blind Apple sheep army, the fan base that follows something so loyally, is it doesn't happen for no reason. They don't just suddenly start following a brand blindly because it just happened to appear. Like there was something that had to have been done, or an experience that had to have been given that made people decide, I want to follow this brand.
Or jobs that had to be Steved, and then you're captivated.
Right.
Listen, if Apple sent me a cyanide pill in the mail, I would probably take it.
Only if Johnny Ive designed it, though. Only if it was beautiful aluminium and it was
with no seam. It's the perfect
seamless
pill
design.
So
we made the perfect pill.
Can I ask you, Nick, to go back on your iPad subject? What are you going to do with your current 2018 Pro?
I have yet to decide. It is not worth all that much as on the used market.
How dare you?
It's bent, okay? Like, I wouldn't... Sure, I could probably sell it on Swappa for $500 or $600, but I don't feel like it's worth that because it's bent and there's some problems when you're on a dark screen. You see like it's bent in 2 axes, so the backlight's kind of weird, and it is dented and scuffed up. So I don't feel like if I was giving this to someone who had not experienced Apple before, I don't think they'd enjoy this experience because I've messed it up, and so because of that, I would feel like
take care of this new one.
I will.
That's right.
This is my goal. It needs to last 3 years, hoping to last 4. So this one only lasted 18 months. So I'm gonna.
I think we roasted you so hard about this whole like not taking care of your stuff. I think from now on you're scarred and you're gonna be taking care of your stuff.
Look how pretty the AirPods Pro are. I clean them every day. It's pretty. I polished all of the scuffs out and everything. It's perfect.
The power of peer pressure.
Yeah. No.
All right.
No.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do with my current iPad. So because of that, if I were going to sell it, I wouldn't be selling it for more than, I don't know, $400 or so is my thought. So it's kind of like maybe I should just keep it at that point and have use it as a teleprompter. Because this is something I've been working on with the whole studio set, and trying to up my quality there. And so anyway, that's been a thought, and I did end up getting some teleprompter glass for it and stuff. But at the end of the day, I don't really know. I don't have any huge plans for it. I don't think it's really worth selling or trying to sell. So
Ben test.
It's just.
Do a Ben
yes, I will do a Jerry Riggs Everything style. Just crunch it in half. And
you're so disrespectful.
Get 8 million views off of it.
God,
that might work. I think it would get a lot of views.
Yep. So if anyone out there on the podcast is listening and they want a $500 or $900 bent iPad, that
$500 or $900,
$5 or $9. That escalated quickly.
It did.
Hey, what do you guys think about these new leaked iOS 14 wallpapers and stuff, like the schematics of it?
I believe about half of it.
Which half?
A lot of it's I believe the Dongle Book Pro's wallpaper images. Those look legit, and it sounds like something Apple would do. It's like, okay, iOS 14 is going to be mostly about stability and improvement and performance enhancement, and just kind of ending the old devices on a good note. And a very easy way to make an upgrade feel major, even though it isn't, is by changing aesthetic things like the wallpaper. They've barely done anything with the wallpaper in years. And adding this option to be like, okay, there's a gradient of the picture you set, and then also when you go to dark mode, the gradient changes. It's like, it sounds really, really simple to add, but it will make a huge difference to people who care about the home screen. Because so many people act like iOS isn't that big a difference if the icons don't change or if the home screen doesn't change. So I saw that, and the photos of it looked legit, and I was like, yeah, that's believable. But the ones about widgets, I'm skeptical.
Yeah, that's
skeptical.
where I have questions too.
I think the 9 to 5 Mac reported on the iPad getting a home screen redesign before iOS 13 came out. And it was like, oh, we're finally going to get, the redesigned home screen that those jailbreak tweaks always showed us. And then when it came out, it was like, the Today view is on the side now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Wow, what a redesign.
Innovation, Apple. Innovation.
So when I hear Today widgets or something coming to the home screen, I'm like, what minuscule version of this are we actually going to get? Go ahead, Nick.
I'm probably the one person who's not excited about these home screen updates. And honestly, I'm hoping they don't change too much because I love my current wallpaper. This is the first wallpaper I've kept for like over a year at this point. Mm-hmm. Between different devices, it's for those video listeners, you get some exclusive video viewers.
Video listeners.
It is very simple. I have RGB, like that little RGB line around the OLED screen looks beautiful. Black OLED everywhere.
So you're worried they'll make it so you can't have that anymore.
I know, and I love this so much with just the 8 apps at the bottom, 4 folders, 4 apps, and just it's so simple, and I love it. I don't really want them to change anything. Because I love my current setup.
What if they change it so that you can have that setup without having a million black apps on your home screen?
Well, then I'm going to feel less special, and everyone else is going to be doing it, and I will have devalued the amount of time it took me to get my home screen looking that crispy.
Okay, fair point. What do you think, Randy?
About the wallpaper part or the?
I don't know. You asked the question.
Well, I would. Yeah, well, Nick. Listen here. You better stop with your facts.
We know you're getting old, Randy, and keeping track of what you said and what we said is getting a little difficult for you.
You listen here, young whippersnappers. Because I asked about the wallpaper and Nick started talking about widgets. So I'm like, which part am I talking about? Okay, fine. I'll talk about the whole thing. 1, yes. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Yeah. Well, we know you have a insanely good track record, so that's why we're asking you to predict.
Careful, Drew. Careful not to inflate my ego that much because I will ride high with it.
That's okay. Randy. I will keep your ego so low. You have no idea.
The idea of customizable wallpaper seems like I think it's real because it's so left field and nobody was thinking about it because nobody really cares. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Few people care, but yeah, you're right.
It's like, oh, give us wallpaper, but I don't know. I remember somebody, I don't know if it was you or somebody said about oh, they let you blur out the background. I was like, hello, I've been blurring out my own backgrounds forever. It's what I do. Just so I can add depth to it, you know? I don't think the wallpaper thing is fake. I just don't care if it's not real because it's like whatever. I make my own wallpapers anyway, so I don't care.
Well, that's safe to say for all of us, I think.
Yeah, nobody really but if
that's a reactionary change. You notice it for 5 minutes and then you use your phone the same way.
Then you're over it. In regards to widgets, I don't, not so much because my track record. I don't think I have an opinion nor a comment on it because
your track record.
My track record's perfect and I don't want to tarnish it by any means. I would say that for me, this year or last year when we got iOS 13, I am now for the first time in iOS history completely content. I'm happy. There's nothing I want to be changed in the sense that
wow,
that's a necessity. I got the volume to not hijack my screen. I got the adjustable frame rates and resolution in the camera app like I've always wanted.
What about pop-ups?
And dark mode, and I'm avoiding that question because that is the one thing that Okay, give me pop-ups, but what?
I don't
Craig,
mind
right?
pop-ups. I like them.
Craig said, or Phil, or somebody said that. Yeah, we're working on it. So it's like, all right, that's a given. But realistically, that's been around since the very first iPhone, and it's been part of my life since I've had iPhone. So I don't expect it one way or the other. It's a pleasant change, and I'll accept it. But it's nothing that is a deal breaker for me anymore. When I first, was flirting with the idea of cheating on iOS, it's because there were deal breakers that I needed to, that things needed to be addressed and fixed within the software that needed to be, desperately updated on or just corrected. And they corrected all of them. We got the dark mode for OLED, so now we can preserve better battery. We got the, like I said, with the camera app and the volume indicator. Those were my biggest gripes because it was just like the animations when you try to move it, it just goes over your whole screen. It's like, if somebody calls me and you take over my screen, I am not opposed of just sending them to decline and let them know that I don't want to talk to them. I don't really care like that, and not that many people have my number like that to the point where it really matters all that much. So
for me, it's more like
I never seem to get a hold of you, Randy.
What?
Is that why I can never seem to get a hold of you, Randy?
Well, and plus everything gets pushed to your watch anyway, so I see everything what's going on in the watch, and maybe that's why I don't really need anything changed for iOS 14, because like anything else that's like somewhat of a something or another, I know that was very ambiguous, but everything that for me, it gets pushed to the watch. I'm like, okay, I won't even go grab my phone, and I don't have it set up to where I will get calls on the Mac or like iPad. Like I used to integrate everything when it came to messages or inbound calls, and I don't like how. Oh my god! I hate
and then
that.
The Mac
Turned it
takes
off.
like 30 seconds to stop ringing after you
exactly.
answer on your phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, fix that Mac OS.
My wife goes, "Oh, I can see you're home. Why? Because it's still ringing." And so, like, yep. So
someone's in the ecosystem if they pick up the phone and you still hear the phone.
Yeah. So I mean, fix that in Mac OS then or something. But honestly, like, I'll never turn on those features again because I don't like being. To me, that's the hostage point. If you're gonna hold up my home screen for about like 5 seconds or something, I'll just deny the call. I don't care.
For me, it's more about the settings pop-ups, like enter your password for this email, or you have 10% battery left, or a Siri. All things I feel like should not take up the entire display. They don't need to.
I never thought about that. Yeah, they can fix that. Yeah, I never even thought about that.
I like Siri taking up the whole screen. That's like when I'm talking to Siri, I'm talking to Siri. It's not like a when I interact with like a notification or a widget, it's like quick in and out. But when I talk to Siri, I want it to take up the whole screen so I can have a conversation about my psyche and like how messed up I am as a human. And Siri's actually really good for that. She talks me through a lot of my issues, and now that we're all in quarantine, I haven't been able to see my psychologist every week. So I've been really just talking a lot to Siri. But
why do we have hands-free Siri?
Well, because I never know when I'm going to need to talk to her and get something off my chest.
But why not just type to her every time?
That is true. I should probably just be texting her.
That's not my point.
That's joke, guys. Make Siri up in the top. I don't care. I was just trying to
make it like the Mac. Yeah, just do it the same way it is on the Mac.
You are slowly introducing the plot of that movie, Her. And Nick is going to have a relationship with Siri, and
Siri has so many other relationships.
I
There's
know.
no exclusivity.
Every time I ask her if she loves me, she says not really. And I'm gonna cry a little bit inside.
He's gonna show up on My Strange Addiction.
Do you love
or something.
me?
I think you're pretty great.
She doesn't say it.
You got friend zoned. Got major friend zoned by Siri.
What? No.
I made a video on this, but I didn't know your guys' thoughts on it. Do you think the notch is shrinking this year?
Oh,
they have to do
glad you brought
something.
this up. No, they don't actually, because I love the notch exactly where it is, and I've been extremely consistent on this. I remember.
But you don't have a 5.4 inch
Nick,
iPhone.
Drew made a video about you, Nick.
Wait, when?
That very thing you just did.
What?
They don't make.
I could see you didn't watch the video because that very thing you just did about like I love the notch. I wanted to be exactly where it is. I've been very consistent about it. Drew addressed this very thing.
Okay, well I should have done my homework before the show. Gosh, sorry, I've been so busy with work. I haven't watched like any Taylor videos. In the
I'll
last
start
3
leaving
days,
more
so.
like Easter eggs in the videos, and then just seeing if you guys don't bring them up during the podcast.
That's a good idea because
It'll
I
be like a
definitely
little
won't.
test. But my fans will ping you on
don't do
Twitter
it, Drew.
anyway.
I will let you down sometimes.
Sorry,
I've
I
been
had
pretty
let the apple
consistent.
sheep down.
My point is, do you think there's a 5.4 inch iPhone coming this year, Nick?
Honestly, I could care less. It probably
That's
will.
not what I asked. I don't care if you care. I'm asking, do you think there's one coming?
You're asking if I think, and me requiring the processing power to think about it would require that I would care about it. And seeing how I do not
my
care about
God.
it, I've not wasted the processing power on thinking about it.
Oh my God,
so
Nick.
I don't care.
Whoa.
Okay.
Getting the
Randy.
biggest one, I don't care.
Notice how whenever you ask me a question, Drew, I'll first give you the immediate answer to the question, and then I'll explain. Just want to put that out there. I'll always be like, yes, no, something. I'll answer the question first, and then I'll
Except
dive into
right
it.
now, dang it.
I feel like Michael Scott
You
sometimes.
got me. Yes, the 5.4 is a reduction in size, right?
It's smaller than the iPhone 6.
Yes, I do think there's a smaller one. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like they've been very consistent. What? I just had a stroke. Consistent. Oh God, Alzheimer's is kicking in, guys. Wait, why am I here? Who are you? Why'd I stop? Okay.
run for president.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like that report of the 4 different sizes and stuff like that has been very consistent, and I do think there will be a smaller one introduced. And you haven't asked me this part of the question, but I don't know if they're going to reduce the notch. I don't know if it matters all that much, but I feel like if they're going to introduce a smaller form factor, that in turn they would reduce the notch.
My point is they
Because-
have to. If you do the math on the size of the display and how big the
Yeah.
true depth camera system is, it will not comfortably fit on a 5.4 inch phone. But there's no
Yeah.
rumors claiming it's Touch ID, or there's no rumors claiming it's a forehead. They're still saying Face ID and OLED and everything. But
Right.
to me, that's the biggest indicator they're doing something with it. May not be much.
I
But-
think you're. I think they will reduce the notch strictly because of form factors being changed. That what we have here with our phones now has been more or less the same form factor with the 2:1 ratio since iPhone 10. Like, this makes sense why there's no need. But now that we're getting new sizes, that means hardware as a whole, and there will be some type of refresh. And I don't think they're doing it. I don't think they're doing it strictly for aesthetic purposes. I actually think that it's happening in a more practical use. I'm of the mindset that consolidating some of the sensors might be a thing. Moving the speaker / earpiece up might also be a thing, especially if it's being more boxy, like I just outlined the iPad. If we're getting more iPad type of frame, it can definitely fit more comfortably having the speaker move up, and it's not going to start to interfere with the curve of the bezel. So I can see that being bumped up now, and I actually think that maybe I know we'll get the new sensor for the Pros on the back. That maybe in some form or another we might have. I don't think the sensor on its back on the back side of the camera will be the only one there. I think with AR, I think we're gonna have something that goes on both sides, and I don't really know specifically what, but I feel like they're gonna update what we currently have that does the dot projector, infrared, and all that will be not reinvented, but just reconfigured in a way that just utilizes more space. So I don't think it's it will be aesthetically pleasing, but they are not doing it because of aesthetics. I think they're doing it because now they have something happening, and now that we have it ready to go, instead of doing incremental things over the last 2-3 years, we're going to give it to you all at once, and then we'll adjust to these new form factors, and then we'll use these form factors for the next 2 to 3 years, and then we'll reassess at that point. But long-winded answer to say that I think that the notch. This is the first time I put thought into that. That's why I think I'm thinking out loud. I think the notch will get small, just because form factors are going to change, and I think that aesthetics is a result of it, but not the driving force of it.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So what are they going to do with the extra screen space, though? So they shrink the notch, sure, but if you look, there's already plenty of room for the time, the LTE, and the battery, and all that stuff. Like, but sure, they can shrink the notch, and there'll be less money for videos or whatever. But
battery percentage could make it come back.
If they wanted, if Apple wanted to have a battery percentage, they could have already put one in there. There's
and
plenty
they might
of
do
space
that
there.
with iOS 14.
With iOS 14, they might do that. Then lovely. But I'm just not convinced that there's like, besides there being something to update, like there's not much functionality a smaller notch is going to bring. Like
we're slowly coming more and more out of the functionality upgrade phase where it makes sense to add these features. We're getting into like everything's gimmick territory now, where the only thing they can get people to upgrade for is new design. Because I think when the new squared off design comes out, and if it does have a smaller notch, which at this point I think is pretty likely, and they have new bezel sizes and new form factors, suddenly everyone's 11 Pro and 10S and 10 is going to feel so dated because they have the curved stainless steel sides, and now everyone's like, ew, I don't want to tell it, it's disgusting. But the day before we're like, this is the most beautiful phone I've ever held, and then we'll go, gross, give me that new one. And when that new one comes out,
how did you get a video of me in September?
That'll be the norm, and now people are just going to want that on everything. At least for the people who upgrade every year, people in the iPhone upgrade program. Obviously, there will be a bunch of people who don't care and will hold on to their old phone for years. But yeah, I think you made a good point about the squared-off edges probably allowing for them to cram more sensors near the top, whereas right now that's probably a little limiting because when you have those rounded-off edges, that kind of limits you with what you can stuff in there. But if it's boxed off, that's probably more efficient with space. And they could, I hope they bring up the earpiece, because I don't know if there's a way they can combine so many of the Face ID sensors together into one and still get the same results. Maybe there is a way, but either way, I've been watching so many companies put the earpiece in the top for so long now that I'm just like, come on, it's so simple. It would be so easy. I could see it being done, but
I think it's possible with the box design. You can. My only reference point really is I look at the iPad and I think of like all the sensors are kind of spread out because it's a single bezel, and I get that we're not going to necessarily get that for iPhone, but but you can work with more. You have more space when it's boxed, and you could push components underneath the screen to the edges better than when it's curved, and you have to kind of like make it. You have to makeshift a bit. I think you can get more usage out of the square design again, of the corners and stuff like that, or the edges. I mean, not the corners, but I agree. I think putting up move it to the top would be practical, aesthetic. You can even flirt with the idea of. I wouldn't want to do that though. I understand the whole front-facing speaker thing, but I don't think I am not that dependent on phone speakers to be that great because of using AirPods and stuff like that.
But Dolby Atmos, it feels like it's around you.
I don't even know what that means.
You probably don't want to know what that means.
As an audiophile, it's completely gimmicky. I think that it's completely irrelevant, and I don't care. I don't buy a phone to get the best speaker by any means of the imagination.
No, that didn't work.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, Look how
At the end
quickly
of
all
the
that
day,
died
nothing's,
out.
nothing's going to compete with a 12-inch driver connected to a 300 watt preamp. Like,
Boom.
There were several
You
phone
got it.
companies that tried to be like the phone with the best speakers, and they all flopped. None of them did well.
HTC. What
Razer.
was
HTC was like the big one. They had all the front
HTC,
firing
what
stuff,
was
and they
8 something 8? That
they
was
had
a
all
fun
these
one.
commercials about like most things, it sounds better when it's pointed towards you, and you look at them now, they're all off on the edges and the sides. And Razer phone had great front-facing speakers, and that flopped. And
The Razer
it
phone.
doesn't-
Remember that thing?
I do, because whenever I meet Wyatt, I see it again. Yes, it's still.
yeah, he does
So-
have it too. Huh.
Yeah, it's never turned out to be a good reason for anyone to buy a phone, but I'm realizing more now, like, if the Pro iPhones this year don't have 120 hertz, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be annoyed. That's the single-handedly biggest feature I'm looking forward to this year, because I loved it on the S20, and I loved it on OnePlus.
I'm gonna be genuinely mad.
I'll be like angry. I'll be annoyed if the upgrade is just it looks different and there's a LiDAR sensor, which might help with video bokeh. Honestly, that's not a good. Like, I will be disappointed by that, because they're buying displays from Samsung. Samsung has access to 120 hertz OLED panels. Mass production hasn't started as of yet. They're probably finalizing everything right now. But if, like, they have
If
the
they're even having
resources.
production this year.
Yeah, well, I think so. There will be, but I don't care if it's delayed. I don't care if I have to wait longer for it. I don't want another 60 hertz iPhone again. Not counting the
Ever.
SE.
All right, someone save this clip and send it to us mid-September after they release an iPhone that only has 60 hertz, and Drew is going on and on about the beautiful design.
I'll
Actually, he'll
appreciate
be
the
super
design,
consistent
but
about the 60
I will.
hertz,
I
but-
will not be. I will objectively not settle. Like, I'm not saying I won't buy it. I'm just saying I will be disappointed if it doesn't have 120.
So what you're
And-
telling me is you never want to settle. You never settle. So you should get a OnePlus. What do you think about the new OnePluses?
The saddest thing about the OnePlus tagline is it doesn't line up with their phones at all, because most of what they sell is like, well, you can settle for something that's not as good as everybody else's. Until recently,
But that wireless charging, though, that fast wireless charging.
Yeah,
Yeah,
30
these
watts?
feel like-
Oh my gosh.
these feel like more never settle phones than their previous generation, which were more like, well, settle for not having flagship features because it's cheaper. That's what it should have been.
Never
That should have
settle
been their
unless you're
tagline.
looking for a better camera or wireless charging or water resistance or 120. Well, actually, no, they did get they came to the refresh rate quicker. All right,
They got it
all
now.
right. There
but
you get one plus.
you get one plus. But the 30-watt wireless charging is interesting. I hope that makes its way into other products in the future.
I'm like
but
62% sure that thing gives you cancer. Like 30 watts wirelessly. What are they doing?
it's a
That is
5G
crazy.
wireless
Giving you
charger
cancer. 5G.
that gives everyone
the-
the virus. It's just how it
It's
works.
in the water.
Can't say that we're gotten demonetized, even though we're not monetized.
I didn't say it. I said the virus. We're
the
good.
Virus
The
and
virus.
5G, I think, is enough for YouTube, and now I've said it twice, so now they're thinking we're really talking about it.
No, it's okay. It's only the first 5 minutes of a video. You're
Oh
good.
yeah, we're good.
Oh,
We're
okay.
good.
Yeah, we're
Cool.
good.
I
We're
don't
good. We
think.
can say it.
I don't think I'll test the OnePlus 8 this year, though. I don't think it's
We'll let
interesting
Nick
enough.
test it.
No, not
I mean,
again.
we'll let him open it open it out of the box,
For
use it for
23
5
hours.
minutes, and return it. I'm kind of.
I'd be down for that.
I find it hilarious that they went from small notch, pop-up camera, and now to camera hole. Like, does that
It's-
not speak volumes to how little people care about notches and camera holes today?
I think. I feel like it's like almost a step backwards. Maybe.
In some ways it is, but I'm not mad at them for making that decision. Like, it makes sense.
I
see
think
why
their
they did
best
it.
looking one was the teardrop. That was my favorite looking one.
You didn't like the look of the
It looks
no-notch
nice
one?
in a demo, but using the phone, the thing I had with the problem I had with the OnePlus 6T, which I believe had the little teardrop one, the little teardrop itself, like if you just look at the little inch around it, like it looks fine. But the thing is, the radius of the rest of the phone is not that same radius. With the iPhone, the the amount of circle on the edge of the phone is the same as the amount of the circle as the edge of the display, which is just a smaller version of the same circle that's for the notch and an even smaller one for the first part of the notch. It's very like pleasing to look at. But with the OnePlus, the radii weren't balanced, and it had a little bit of a chin, and like.
Hey Nick,
You should have seen the Pixel
again.
I can see your leg hair.
Oh, I am sorry, guys. I am not wearing pants right now.
I feel like this is such an intimate moment. It's like the top does not match the bottom in more ways than one.
I'm not wearing a purple tutu or whatever John Krasinski was
And I'm
wearing.
over here wearing jeans.
The only
Randy
one
has
wearing
jeans
jeans,
on.
and
I'm
you're in
wearing
Southern
shorts
California.
because that's why.
It's
Tim
so
Pool over here.
cold. It's been raining and it's cold, and I'm like, it's freaking freezing out
60
here.
degrees out. It's so cold.
Wait, hold on. I have to. It's 57.
Your dark sky weather app.
Yeah, Dark Sky. Did I mention Dark Sky is the best weather app I've ever touched and used, and I love it.
Are you
death, and I'm
gonna-
sad that that's going away, even though it'll be.
If
free.
Apple is switching dark sky to their own built-in weather or whatever, or they make a subscription service, would you subscribe to it, Nick?
No,
I believe we talked about this last week, but yes, I totally would.
Okay.
God,
Dark Sky is
no,
Gotcha.
no.
You have no idea how amazing Dark Sky is, Randy. It's a cult.
Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Yep, looks kind of cloudy today. There we go. There's my dark sky. Yep, there we go. Done. Free.
That's a lot
Okay.
cheaper.
It's free.
Well, for
free.
some people who enjoy the outdoors, that's fine. But I want to know what the outdoors is doing while I'm indoors and not have to think about it.
I am fine with knowing, but I don't need it to be. I'm not willing to pay for it to be that accurate. That's all.
Have you used their time travel feature? You can
I've
go
seen-
back in time
I've seen
or
screenshots.
forward in time, any amount of time. You pick the date 5 years from now, and
Why would I
get
wanna
an
go
estimation of
backwards?
what the weather will be like. It's great for trip planning. You're like, oh, I wonder what the weather's going to be like on
No, I
July
mean, like,
30th in this place.
You said forwards or backwards, and I was like, why would I want to know the weather 5 days ago?
I looked up the weather when I was born. Did you know it was overcast in La Jolla, San Diego when I was born?
This is
That's
this
something
is
you
the,
That
didn't
sounds
know.
like La Jolla.
This is the purpose of the internet.
Were you
It's
born
like
in the
to
morning?
convince people. Yeah,
No, evening.
it's to convince people they need things that they didn't even think about. I wonder if it was raining when I was born. Let me go look that up.
He's
Like, I
one
just
step
don't-
below knowing his astrology sign now.
I still don't remember that. What was it? Some lady at the grocery store told me what it was. What was that, Randy?
Wait. What time were you born?
Aquarius.
September.
I said what time?
What?
Oh, time? Oh, well, I don't know. Time is September's a time.
hey, Nick, what time were you born? I don't know.
Like 10:50 p.m. Pacific
Okay.
time.
21
There.
years ago.
I'm not going to tell you what it is, but our listeners,
Okay.
someone's going to give you the
Someone tweet
information.
me, what is my astrology sign? Because some lady at the grocery store figured it out and I forgot it.
Siri should know.
Yeah.
Just ask Siri.
Siri,
Oh
what
my
is my
God, you're right.
astrology sign?
Google will know.
Google
Even though you
would,
didn't
honestly.
give Google that
Did you hear
information.
Apple and Google are teaming up to do some stuff we probably shouldn't be talking about? Bummer. We're going to get demonetized before we even get monetized.
People acted like that was amazing to see Apple and Google team up. I didn't get the
No,
hype over
it's
that.
scary. It's like, what is
They've
Apple
teamed up
doing
lots of
collecting
times.
data with Google?
What are you guys
they
talking
doing?
about?
This is
Wait. Quit innuendoing me.
Okay. Apple and Google, to help map the spread of the current thing that we
Okay.
shall not name,
Okay.
are teaming up together to enable all iOS and Android devices to talk to each other via Bluetooth and collect data on which devices are next to each other for 5 minutes or more. So if you go to a restaurant or whatever, and someone near you also has a device, your device and their device, Android, iOS, doesn't matter, will talk to each other and remember each other. And then that'll get anonymized and sent up to Google or Apple or whoever, so they can track the spread of the thing. Because it's actually it's not a theoretical model of how people interact. It's an actual model of how people have interacted. And so if one person
Be-
gets that,
They'll be so
What?
confused at tech YouTubers' houses with like 80 phones. They're like, oh, it's really concentrated right there.
Oh, they're having a
Apple
party
Pro.
in there. Oh, no.
The health department bangs the door. You're having a party with more than 80 people in this location. You can't have more than 80 people.
Hey, 6 feet
just,
apart.
It's just me alone in my room in my shorts.
Oh,
That is
no.
weird that they're collaborating, but I'm not like people were really, really confused to see a partnership. And I'm like, they partnered on the smart home stuff. And
Google
Google
Maps
pays
back
Apple
in the
billions every year to be the default search engine. So it's like these guys aren't like mad at each other. They both work together all the time.
It's a business. It's a
Hey,
business
I should
relationship.
probably mention the last little thing here that I have. I switched to Mint. Ryan Reynolds didn't call me, and I was sad. So I switched to Mint.
Another one.
Not for my bites the dust. not for my primary line, but for a secondary line, I have Mint now. So congratulations. Use my referral
Why?
code.
Why?
Second
Why?
question. First of all, congratulations. That's amazing. Greatest decision of your life. You'll never regret
Okay.
it. Second question. Why the heck would you do that?
Why the heck would I do that? Well, I feel like I'm getting mixed messages here. On the one hand, you love the decision. On the other hand, you sound like you don't like it.
It's like if you
It just
bought
doesn't
a
make sense.
it's like if you bought a iMac Pro. I'd be like, yeah, team iMac Pro. iMac Pro is awesome, but why the heck would you do that?
Yeah.
That's like my opinion
Okay,
on it.
I see. Mostly because I just wanted to try it. I'm curious what the service was like here, and they're having an unlimited thing right now at the current situation, which may or may not be extended. And also the chance that Ryan Reynolds would call me, like that's cool.
worth it. Yeah, that's worth
Honestly,
it alone.
and
You
honestly,
guys are disgusting.
the real reason, Randy, before you
Don't
before you
deny
get
it,
on your
Randy.
before you get on your high minimalist horse, this is why I got it. This is the essentialist. My current phone number is not public, but some people know it, and so it's just annoying enough to where I get enough messages that I have to unfilter or filter unknown messages or whatever. So I kind of wanted a new number, and so I
Is
need-
that what we were doing last night, Nick? Tell Drew the truth.
well, so I got a new number,
number?
right? And
Or
you
another
should have
number.
checked. I got another number,
Oh, no.
yes. And
Nick has turned into an exclamation mark for me.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry about that. I will
I cannot hear or
unexclamate my
see
point and make my point quickly. Maybe that's what it means. I
And
got
on
a
the
new
back.
number, and this number was involved in a bunch of group
It was
threads.
going so well.
Oh, you can't even hear him now.
Oh,
Can
I
you hear
can't
him?
hear or see him.
Oh,
okay.
you're
Well,
gone.
that's the
My
show, guys.
devices.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Hang up and call back.
Wait, hang on. Wait. Well, he's reconnecting. I was gonna.
Good.
This is gonna be a fun outro. Don't cut
Okay.
it. We're doing it
Are you
live.
ready
Am
for
I
the
back?
outro?
I'm back. All right.
doing
Sorry
it
about that. FaceTime does that from time to time. It's been doing that for years.
I'm next. I'm next on the hit list.
All right, we better finish this up quick before we all turn into exclamation points. Yeah, I was involved in a bunch of group messages and from complete and total strangers. So I was just messing around with them, which was fun.
So are you doing dual SIM on your iPhone?
I will be doing that at some point. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be-
New question.
Mhm.
New question. Or more of a. Anyway. Did you get the Mint Mobile service because? And this is a genuine question. Are you considering leaving Verizon?
I would love to. I've said this many times. If there's a better option than Verizon or one of the any of the carriers, I would totally be up with them.
So pretend everything goes fine. You would
Yeah.
leave Verizon in the next 2 months or
They
something?
would have to have unlimited. Mint would have to come up with an unlimited plan.
That's not going to happen. That's not part of
well,
their thing.
They
So,
have it right
but-
now. They have it
Well,
right now.
you know what this is about. You know why that's unlimited.
Well, I know why, but I'm
so
thinking
you,
maybe
you
in the
bought
future.
into something that's temporary. I guess my thing is you bought Mint knowing you're not going to keep it. So you bought Mint really because you're hoping you can get a voicemail from Ryan Reynolds.
No.
No, wait. That
Don't
last
act-
part was that last part was a joke. My
Don't
thing
act
is
like that isn't worth it.
it's,
Randy.
no.
Drew's been sending me screenshots every single morning of his phone call from Ryan Reynolds, and he's just been rubbing it in my face.
Hey, all you cool cats. Anyway, so so you bought Mint Mobile just to see what the service would be like in rural USA.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to get a second number. You know, that's always been the plan for a while, to have the differentiation even between work. You know, I'm giving my number out to clients and stuff, and I want to have that separation between personal life and work life. So I wanted
But if
a number.
It goes to the same phone, that's what I don't understand.
Well, I can mute it. I can mute it on a dual SIM between certain hours, which is kind of what I want to do. So anyway, I needed a new line, a new service, either with Verizon, which was going to be like $40, or I could do it with Mint, that was going to be $35 a month. And okay, slightly different services, granted, but I'm not planning on using that service more than just phone and text. And Drew and Louise and everyone Drew knows has done very well with the free Mint referral codes. So if you really love Mint as much as we're talking about it, and you really want to get Ryan Reynolds to call you, feel free to click the link in the description below. You will be taken to my referral page, where
this was all one big cheap ad slot.
Never. This is
Goodbye,
like a fourth wall break inside of a fourth wall break.
You sounded like Ralphie in A Christmas Story. A cheapy commercial. Drink your Ovaltine.
Drink your Ovaltine.
Oh no. All right,
yeah.
guys. We should wrap it before I'm becoming an exclamation mark.
Well, I'm a true Mint fan, but anyway, thank you guys for watching or listening, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ba-ba.